The quarterbacks from the 2018 draft. What is the key for Josh Allen Monday night against the Falcons?
Number one, get back to valuing the football. That's something that Josh has done just about as good as anybody in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. Wasn't the case against the Patriots. Then understand, Atlanta's got some young pass rushers that are absolutely fantastic. James Pierce being one of them, Walker being another. Also, Caden Ellis as a linebacker. He's going to have to be aware of all 3 of those guys.
Baker Mayfield plays the Niners this weekend. What's the key for him?
Yeah, early down, aggressive play action passing. Baker killed Seattle's defense with this. His connection with Emeka Egbuka is absolutely fantastic. The understanding of what route is going to be needed to beat what coverage, working the middle of the field has become a strength of his this year. It'd be big against San Francisco.
And then how about Sam Darnold taking on Jacksonville?
Yeah, the battle of 12 personnel. I absolutely love Seattle's 2 tight ends, and I love the way that they use them. Sam Darnold is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when they are in that 12 personnel utilization of 2 tight ends. The play action, the drop back, how they're used in the red zone. Jacksonville defensively is good versus it. He's going to have to be better.
All right, those 3 quarterbacks all part of the 2018 draft class. Hembo and I have cooked up a little something on that. So lost in all the conversation about the reclamation project quarterback success stories in the league, like Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, is that it is not only the past and the future that are affected. Those 2 are also rewriting history. Here's the deal. The QB class of 2018 appeared destined to be a mixed bag. There were 5 first-rounders, more misses than hits. Now it's suddenly possible that it becomes one of the top 2 or 3 classes of all time. We can start with the easy ones, Josh and Lamar. They're both first-ballot Hall of Famers if they retire tomorrow. They've won 3 of the last 6 MVPs. As we speak, Lamar has the highest passer rating of all time, and Allen has 5 straight seasons, over 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. No other quarterback has ever done that, so they're easy. Then there's Baker. He was the first pick in 2018. Here's his journey. Traded from Cleveland for a 5th-round pick, stops with Carolina and the Rams. Now on his 4th team, Tampa, they signed him for 1 year to compete with Kyle Trask. 2 years and 79 touchdowns later, he's a fashionable MVP pick, and his last 2 coordinators are now head coaches. Darnold, similar story. He's on his 5th team. He currently leads the league in QBR. Here's the point. The 2018 quartet of QBs is 61 and 26, dating back to last year, and they are 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th in total offense. That is special stuff. Now, the gold standard for quarterback classes is 1983, 3 Hall of Famers. The Eli, Ben, Rivers class of 2004 probably checks in behind that. And before you yell at me, it is obviously too early to say this group is going to have 4 Hall of Famers, but it suddenly doesn't look impossible. Remember that Baker is the oldest of them, and he's only 30. So as you consider what these guys are doing, it is worth noting they're not just playing great. They suddenly have a real chance to be a group that we remember together for a very long time. Just something to think about these quarterbacks from that same class. I looked over, Shefty is nodding his head vigorously. Your thoughts?
That was well done.
Very well done. Hembo, great job. Look, so much about a quarterback's success is not where he's picked in the draft, but where he winds up going and how he's supported. And there is the greatest evidence of it right there. Sam Darnold, the last couple of years in Minnesota, where they believed in him and supported him. In Seattle, where they believe in him big time. They think that he's been an upgrade at quarterback. And Baker Mayfield arrived in Tampa, surrounded by weapons. They built around him, supported him, and he's risen to the challenge. Look at the places that he was where he flamed out. Carolina, Cleveland, Sam Darnold, the Jets, Carolina.
Yeah. They were together in Carolina briefly, the 2 of them, yeah.
Places that have not done quarterbacks the right way, right?
To say the very least. So here's my question to you, Dan, because you obviously, I respect your opinion on this stuff as much as literally anyone's I know. What does it say about the development of quarterbacks in the NFL that Sam Darnold is on his 5th team, Baker Mayfield is on his 4th, and right now the 2 of them are among the top 2 or 3 candidates for MVP of the league?
Yeah, I think it starts with this. There's a difference between development and performance at that position. You can have performance without development, and that's a temporary thing. We've seen quarterbacks come into the NFL, maybe have a good year or 2 because they've got a trait and they don't really ever develop. And then you can have development without performance. That's the one that you actually really want for the long term. And I think when you look at Baker and Sam, and Daniel Jones, but not in that class, but 1, snaps matter. snaps matter, experience matters. And those two players, Baker and Sam Darnold, had a lot of snaps. They had a lot of snaps in their college career. They had a lot of snaps in their NFL career. And two, resiliency matters. Those two things are mandatory.
Yep.
Toughness, mental toughness, not allowing doubt to creep in. It's a mandatory skill set. It's a talent. It's a mandatory talent to play quarterback at this level, at a high level in the league.
I would add to it. I agree with everything you just said, and I would add to it. It just it's a perfect illustration of the value of elite coaching in the National Football League. More than all the other sports put together, the right coaching and the elite coaching, if you have Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Kevin O'Connell or one of these guys, they're worth as much as any player, literally any player in the league, because they take guys that other teams gave up on and they turn them into legitimate stars in the NFL. And so that is where I stand behind that statement on the screen there. What do you think of the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that we're looking at a world where about 10 years ago, it was quarterbacks would come into a offensive system and the coaches said, you'd be like, you need to fit my system. And all those coaches you just said, it seems like when they get these quarterbacks in, they don't say, well, this is my system, this is how it's going to work. They say, okay, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? We're going to utilize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses as much as possible. And that's where, when you say these coaches are just as valuable as the quarterbacks, I agree with you, and Jimmy Sexton does too.
Yeah, situation matters, coaching matters, but something you spoke on that I from the lens of if there's young athletes watching or anybody else, the resiliency factor. You know, you see Baker speak about it, like there's some saltiness they might carry with them from a situation, but they're not blaming the situation. They're going out there, they are now creating their own evidence by keeping their belief, putting that action to work, keeping their head down, staying focused, believing in the coaching. So for me, I love the takeaway on resilience, mental toughness.
The mandate.
Yes.
Mandate. We'll come back to it, but it's a fascinating topic, and it's worth looking back at some of the previous draft classes to get a sense. Is the return matchup, the repeat matchup, if you will, of these two teams? Last year, of course, the Commanders with a Hail Mary beating the Bears in one of the most memorable moments of the entire NFL season. Caleb and the new-look Bears offense hoping to even the score this week. So Dan, this one I think is fascinating.
Oh, totally.
Right? It's so much about the quarterbacks and these two guys and Jaden. How do you see this as these two young quarterbacks come into their own?
Yeah, I look at all the pressure on Caleb Williams in Chicago. One, you're coming off of the bye. The last two times Ben Johnson has come off the bye, over 1,000 yards and 88 points. So your preparation, attacking a defense. Two, you've got the recipe offensively to attack Washington's defense. Your tight ends and your backs as pass catchers. Washington defensively is in a little bit of a tough spot because they would prefer to play man, but they got people on their defense that you can attack if you're Chicago with those skill position players, tight ends and backs, and they don't really want to play zone. So if you're Chicago, this is massive advantage for you, at least offensively. And then defensively, it's really about stopping this no-huddle offense in Washington. Jaden looked sensational last week coming back from injury. But that's a big challenge because of Deebo Samuel's usage in this offense stretches you both horizontally and then with their 4x1 stuff vertically. But I look at this as all the pressure on Chicago to say we're actually going to matter this season.
Jeffy, what are you hearing out of these two teams this point of the season?
I think with Washington's coming off a big win, and Jaden Daniels is back, and he looked great. But Chicago, this was the spot last year where the Bears' season was ruined. They never recovered from playing the game in Washington and the Hail Mary they lost. The whole coaching staff got fired. The organization is where it is today because of the game that it played in Washington last year. That has to be on everybody's mind going into Monday night's game to go meet this team that you had beat last year until you didn't, and it blew up everything, and their season changed right here. What was their record from this point on? It was terrible.
They didn't win another game until like the very, very end. They won one meaningless game. Quickly, what do you make of this Jaden versus Caleb?
I think the Commanders as a whole has become a better team than the Bears. The Bears have. Jaden Daniels is the first quarterback to rush for 1,000, the fastest quarterback to rush for 1,000 yards. He did it in 20 games. And he's looked like himself more than ever in this past week. Earlier in the season, I thought just watching him and then him having an injury later in the Packers game, I was like, well, was he injured before? That was kind of my thought process. Watching him come back after a couple of weeks off, I think he looks a lot better. He looks more like himself. That's why I like the Commanders.
And I know Taylor would be curious about this. Terry McLaurin is going to have a chance to play on Monday night.
That's a big. I texted you about fantasy, and I appreciate you bringing that up on air.
Final word, Compton, on this game.
DC is going to be on fire. Do they have the question marks on defense? Yes, but they do have a run defense. They can pressure the quarterback. They are the number number one rushing team in the league right now. I think Chicago's going to struggle. And again, Chicago, they haven't really beat anybody worthwhile on defense between the Dallas and the Raiders. I love Washington here.